Yo, it's not just a scroll, it's a movement. Let's get it. Yeah. Tap in, level up, it's the real lane. Dr. Leyland dropping fire, not playing games. 50 deep with the mission and the voice. Ain't just talk, we the power, we the choice. We spotlight rebels, dreamers, queens, bosses, builders, legacy machines. You want truth, you want real. This the type of vibe that you feel and heal.
From the mic to the gram, LinkedIn too. 50 connections, yeah, that's the crew. Wanna grow, wanna shine, wanna be seen. This the dopest network on the scene.
So don't just lurk, engage, ignite. Click that follow, change your life, this ain't hype. This a tribe on a mission, level up style.
Legacy edition. Legacy edition. Legacy edition. Legacy edition. Legacy edition. From the mic to the gram, LinkedIn too. 50 connections, yeah, that's the crew. Wanna grow, wanna shine, wanna be seen. It's the dopest network on the scene.
So don't just lurk, engage, ignite. Click that follow, change your life, this ain't hype. This a tribe on a mission, level up style.
Legacy edition. 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 Legacy edition.
Legacy Edition. Look at that. Hey, ladies and gents. Hello, Level Up Academy podcast listeners and followers. Grateful Heart Wide Open is already here. Join the movement, share the message, live grateful. These are real stories, real moments, radical gratitude. So it is free right now, guys. We do want, as my birthday weekend comes to an end. Actually, it's a birthday month. Heck, I'll just take the whole month for my birthday. It is free from my birthday on Friday, 7/11 to 7/15. For those of you who greeted me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, thank you so much. I'm still sending you messages. There's a lot. I was overwhelmed with love. Thank you so much for that. That's a positive problems to have. But my finger are hurting replying. Thank you so much. I appreciate you guys so much, and thank you for the love. You're probably wondering what my girlfriend actually talks. It's like, CJ, your podcast is about higher education, but sometimes I don't really hear you talk about students or specific problems in the education industry. And I said, education right now is really about kind of feel negative to be in education because of AI. Half of the people don't like AI. Half of the people don't know enough about AI. And half of us, which is really, 150% at this point, it's like, half wants to learn, but half doesn't want to, right? Because of the implications. But guess what, guys? There's stats out there. There are projections out there that by 2030, that's not that far, okay? In 5 years, millions of jobs are going to be gone because of automation. This is not something that we didn't see coming because we've automated for the last 10 years. Heck, we even took our manufacturing 25 years ago out of United States, right? Everything is made in China. So it's not something like, don't be shocked that it's happening. Be shocked that you're still thinking about it's happening while it's happening and you're not going with the flow. And part of Level Up Academy, right? I don't know if you guys know, but let me remind you what my mission and vision is. My vision is to be the Netflix of education, and my mission is to level up the world through education. I don't know what education means to you, but to me, it's not just about theory and it's not just about learning from the textbook. It's about learning about life, but also learn from the textbook, right? I'm a hybrid teacher, meaning not only hybrid in a sense of online and on ground, but in terms of learning. You actually take the theory and you learn it for yourself if it's going to work for you or not. Today, okay, I'm doing a lot of psychology, and the series that Susanna and I sometimes Sunday, sometimes, during the weekday. We just did the last week, which is already out, by the way, in all 25 major distribution channels. But it's about unmuting by design. Okay. I fully understand that when you're not right in the mind, nothing that you do is right. It just feels very draggy. I just don't have the same motivation maybe I did a year ago or maybe even 6 months ago because I'm going through things. And to help me while I'm helping others is to go to psychology because I have to be right in the mind, full disclosure. And it's not just me, it's the people I know and the people I care and the people that I loved. And so these series are not just for me, but for everybody out there who is silenced, right? Silence Unlocked is our topic today, a social learning journey. And I'm going to give you a little story in a minute. But welcome to the Silence Unlocked, guys, where we don't just break silence, we study it, we name it, and we dismantle it. It's not enough that we recognize the problem, we need to find solutions to this problem. I'm Dr. Constance Leland, and today we're diving into something that affects every single one of us. But few of us realize it's not even ours to carry. It's called our silence. Have you ever wondered why you hesitate to speak up? Or why you get uncomfortable when you're in a room full of strangers? Or why your voice shakes when you finally do? Or why do you shrink in rooms that demand you be bold? Well, it might not be a personality trait. It's not something that is ingrained in you, like that's just in your DNA. It might be a learned behavior. That is what our topic is tonight. In this episode, we're going to unpack social learning theory, the groundbreaking work of psychologist Albert Bandura, okay? How our silence was often modeled for us before we even know how to spell our name. We watch our mothers keep quiet to survive. We saw classmates get mocked for being too loud. We witnessed leaders choose control over collaborations. And so we learned, keep your voice low to stay safe. But if silence is something that we learned, we can certainly also unlearn it. Now, this journey is about reclaiming your voice, not just for your sake, but for the generation watching you and I today. So take a deep breath. Your voice belongs here. Let's unlock it together, okay? So here's the amazing authors. We have Susanna, who's the leader of Grateful, myself, Miguelito, my little brother from New York. I love Miguel. Dr. Faziland, our dentist, or no, she's not a dentist, she's an optometrist. Hello, CJ. Okay. Dr. Glavi was a dentist. Leo, right? Our brother from another mister. And April Wyatt, right? Our Reiki breathwork amazing sister. Also, guys, 50 inspirational connections is now these two circles that you have right here in front of you is something that is for 50 inspirational connections. If you are an ambassador, they'll get the ambassador badge. If you are going to be part of the 50 inspirational connections, you are going to get this badge. Email was already sent out. The first wave was last week. So if you got that email, make sure you already read it. Make sure that you do your video. That's all I'm saying. Just do your video. Okay? Don't hesitate. Keep doing what you're doing. All right. So, as far as sponsorship, we are going to do coffee because I love my coffee and I love my rice coffee. And definitely something that I love about them is that they are mushrooms. I don't know if you guys been to like a coffee shop, but mushroom coffee are like $10 for a cup here in San Diego. And I'm like, when did that happen? But $10. Okay. And we're not talking large. We're not even talking medium, like tiny little thing. Like, I'm sorry, did I just go to Japan? And why am I spending $10 for a coffee? But that's mushroom. And they only give you one mushroom. This one has 5. Like, hello, keep going, right? So definitely try to get your money all the way up. So that is what's one of my sponsor, and of course Bella Grace. That elixir is what I will push because that is something that can make a difference inside and out if you are looking to stay young and healthy and inflammation less. Yeah, my hair is a little crazy. That's okay. It is what it is today, so we're just gonna go with that. I'm gonna bring in my sister from another mister. How are you doing, sis?
I'm doing good. It's a Sunday. It's been a crazy week, but hey, we'll just start the next one now.
Yeah. So, have you heard of the quote, people are not bad? Oh, people are not bad or good, but they are taught by observation.
It would make sense.
Have you heard, because I know you did academic publishing on that we're still working on. Have you heard of Bandura?
Pandora?
Bandura.
No, that one, no.
So he's a psychologist, and he basically, I think he died in 2021. So he's our 21st century psychologist. And basically, he believes, and he actually did a study on social learning theory. There are 4 parts. The first one is attention, retention, reproduction, and motivation. And he did a doll. I guess it was like a doll. It's called the Boo Boo doll. And he had parents took a doll and scolded it, like scolded the doll. And then they gave it to the kids, like little kids. And the little kids, like, literally used the same behavior on the doll. And some kids even use word for word of what the parents said to the doll. So that was his like experiment of social learning. That was his like famous Boo Boo doll experiment, right? So I always got to thinking, like, you know how we have, like, he's Canadian, by the way. So to those who are from Canada, brothers and sisters, he's Canadian. Okay. He was born in like December 4th, 1925, but he died in 2021. He was a psychologist, and he actually was a professor at Stanford University for a long time. And he did created social learning theory and the Boo Boo doll experiment. And you're probably wondering, like, why are we talking about it? Is because we're talking about a social learning journey. What we learn socially from our parents, from our culture, from our friends, what we see, we learn. The learned behavior, right? So if you have something you don't like, you can technically unlearn it. But if you've had done it for 60 years or almost 50 years, it's hard, right? So, like, stay quiet when dad gets angry, or take the spanking because you deserve it, or shrink yourself to survive because you're going to get it more. We learn all of these from people, right? And notice that when we scold, like I noticed too when I scolded my kids, I'm like, my grandmother used to do worse, right? To think about it, I'm like, well, I learned that from my grandmother, I guess, right? So how do you think model behavior is affecting adults now?
Actually, I think as I listen to that question, I think a lot of us are still learning some of these behaviors now, especially with social media all over the place. Because I get how we learn this in childhood, but there was nothing else. I mean, there was TV, but there really wasn't anything else to captivate our attention. And now with social media, you see, I don't know if some of this is really learned behavior that I keep seeing out there, or if it's just people who they figure they're incognito now, and so they will just do whatever they want to do. But in terms of the behavior, I think there's probably a lot of people who they've picked somebody on social media that they follow, and it's like that's who they want to emulate, that's who they want to be like. And I've heard enough stories where that can become very negative in that situation.
I'm actually happy that you brought up social media. I was gonna talk about that later, but since it's already fresh in my mind, ADHD, I'm going to talk about it now before I forget. It's actually really scary because his learning theory 101 is basically saying, hey, we learn through observation, right? We watch people and then we imitate, we copy them, and then we reinforce it by deciding to say, oh, okay, it's fine. If my best friend's doing it, it must be safe. It's okay, right? We do it together, like, sister, get this one. Yeah, I like this one, right? We do it by seeing each other. But let's put that on social media, social learning. The whole world is watching. You don't really know who's watching, right? And then the validation comes in, the likes, the shares, the follows. That's instant. Validating, like, if you're doing right, if you're not doing right. Where's the reinforcement? Guess what? It's built into the algorithm. The algorithm is the reinforcer, right? Notice that a lot of people will give you a lot of talks and a lot of ideas like, oh, in order for you to get out of the 300 jail or 100 jail, to get this, to unlock this, you need to do this, right? And how do you rebel something that you want, but you don't really know if you want it, but you want it because you think there's a possibility of doing something positive. You see what I mean? Like, we're going on a circle. So how do we even make sure that it's not a perfect storm for modern day social learning? Think about the learning abilities now for teachers that we have to teach. And we just had our own, like, in-house conversation with where we worked, where the attention span of our students, and these are adults, okay? The attention span of our students are so short. Why do you think that is?
Social media. It just, everything gets shorter and shorter. It was they're down. We went from 9 seconds to 7 seconds, so we've got a memory span that's less than a goldfish.
Yeah, and then you tell them, okay, quiz time. They're like, I don't remember. What did you just, I feel like everyone has ADHD because they keep forgetting. It's not because they have ADHD or they keep forgetting. It's because they're not paying attention anymore, because it's reinforced to get more. It's all about numbers rather than quality at that point, right? So social learning shows up in social media through modeling. You're watching a creator set boundaries, right? You try it too. You are doing vicarious reinforcement by seeing someone go viral, by showing their vulnerability. So you feel safe to be honest. So you do it too. So imitations is mimicking popular dances, which I do, speaking styles and aesthetics. Self-efficacy is all about watching someone like you like, and then you're like, maybe I can do it too, right? It's that social learning journey that we have, but how do we get out of it? Well, how do we catch it? We also learn silence through social media. Like, people, I do it too. There's a lot of drama on, like, 2 camps on Filipinos right now. And if you're not Filipino, you can't really keep up because they speak our language, right? But, like, they are arguing back and forth. And to me, I'm like popping a popcorn and just watching them or like unfold the drama, right? But why? Why do we do that? It's entertainment at this point. It's not just you and I, it's the rest of the world who's learning what is what. And notice that the values that we used to have, the kindness, the compassion, I don't know if it's present anymore. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I do think there's a lot of compassion that's missing, and I'm trying to figure out too if some of that is because those who were compassionate and open about it maybe got bullied to be less open about it, because you see a lot of comments out there that are very pointed and directed, and when you have those kind of comments, it becomes more difficult to feel safe, to open up, to feel safe, to give ideas, to let anybody know what you're thinking, because you might be afraid of what somebody will say coming back at you, or the stories that you see of how people are basically doing negative things to other people. And I'll just leave it at that. Online, through social media, through comments, that it, for many, I think it becomes a scary thing to open up and actually say anything anymore.
It is kind of hard. Ollie, I am praying. We are praying for your dad. Um, Ollie says he's doing some scans at the hospital. I'm seeing him today. It's Monday already where he's at, and it's 4 a.m. So we're gonna pray for your dad that he's has a positive outlook, whatever he's going through, and also
Mhm.
comfort, right? Comfort. So definitely praying for that. And I cannot wait for sure. Okay, so silence is learned, behavior is learned. We learn it even as adults, but more so children. Children grasp so much because they have more empty space. Think of them as like the bond paper. They're literally like, if they're depending on how young they are, that whole entire 8.5 by 11 is only like maybe, a third written in there, right? As they go in their 20s, and then, the midlife, and then, ours is like more than halfway filled up. So our social behavior learning is still there, and it's really hard to unlearn certain things because you
Mhm.
need to be self-aware when you're doing it, but it's really hard to be self-aware when you're going through a lot of things because it just goes through. So we're struggling as humans how to socially learn or unlearn some things that we don't. But how do we model what we want from others to feel safe? I'd say share your story with vulnerability and strength, but in a positive way. I think I see someone take it to a negative light, bashing people because they hurt me. I see it all the time on TikTok, and it bounces back the wrong way, right? When you set boundaries out loud so others learn how to do it, always think about kindness, compassion. If I did this and if I modeled this, is this going to give a positive ripple effect, or is this going to give a negative effect? I think we need to be aware, and a little bit like intentional on our actions, especially if people are watching you, if you're in social media and you're a content creator, to create more positivity, not dismantle everyone's thoughts, right? Just because they're different doesn't mean they're bad. It just means they're different. And our job is to help, not to hinder or pull down each other, because we're not going to go anywhere, honestly, right? When you build, imagine if ants were just pulling each other, they'll never go to the top to get out of that little hole. But because they build up each other, they can build anything that they want, right? So think about those as social learning theory as well. So if we speak up in meetings, even when it's uncomfortable, but it's intentional to be kind, then that will come out as okay. It's good to speak up when it's necessary. Also, celebrate others loudly. Positive reinforcement is really contagious, guys. Really is. So is negative, right? Sister, how do you model social learning to create a positive effect for those who are belittled or silenced?
Creating, it's an interesting approach, because I never really thought of myself as creating social learning. I've never looked at it that way. Um, I know I try to, I mean, some of it is picking up what others have done. We can't help it. We see what others do and kind of connect with that. But when I consider the ones that I kind of look at, it's trying to be a little bit more vulnerable, a little bit more, um, talk more about the pains that resonate with many of us. So whatever the pains that I'm dealing with, I know that there's others out there that are dealing with it, and trying to find the safe way to talk about it, because there's a lot of things that we deal with. We don't need to drop the details. It's like some of the books we've done, and the authors will give us, they will paint the full picture, when there are times that we need them to just remove a few things and let the reader fill in the picture as far as they're willing to go, because that picture that was painted was way too far than it needed to go for some people. So even with social media, it's trying to do that same thing, trying to paint a picture, and in some aspects, you're letting the audience fill in the blank to the point that they're comfortable.
I'm so glad that you said that, because the way sometimes you don't think yourself as someone that people are watching, because we don't think ourselves like that, because that's not our goal. Our goal is just to keep going, whatever knowledge we have and whatever experiences we have, we try to provide, right? And the thing is, I think sometimes people forget that everyone is human being and everyone goes through life in ups and downs of their life. And when you see someone so strong that's always going to be positive and be strong, when they break down, people point fingers like, oh, I guess that person's not strong enough, right? Instead of doing that, I think what we need to do is help them, right? Not belittle them. And so, social learning, to have like a positive model, is to speak up and act in alignment with what you feel is right, if that was you, right? And I was actually challenged today. One of my mentee, um, who's going to name nameless, this person said that, I have autism and it's really hard for me to put myself in other people's situation or myself in shoes. And it was overwhelming for me, first time traveling outside of my state. She traveled for work, and she was in the airport, and she said, I couldn't communicate for some reason. I froze. Like, I was having a hard time and it was overwhelming. There's so many people, and I just couldn't communicate, and I don't know how I can learn socially to be whatever atypical or normal is. And what's your suggestion, Dr. Leland? I said, first of all, I don't know, and I'm not going to pretend that I know how an autistic mind or brain, high functioning, works. But what I can tell you is that I do know a lot of people who get overwhelmed even without any of that, right? And how you do it is, you can't expect the world to adapt to you. You have to be able to adapt to the world. And what's really important is curating your circle of influence, right? Your circle of influence is your superpower. And what I mean by that is, we learn through watching. So, who are you watching? Who are you learning from? If you are overwhelmed with what you do for the rest of your life right now, ask yourself, who are you watching and who are you following? Who are you talking Not saying they're bad people. I'm saying they're not helping you thrive. And she's like, well, I'm uncomfortable with the change. I said, in the moment of uncomfortableness, you know that you're changing and you're growing. Because if you're always comfortable, that means you're really not growing. You're just comfortable, right? So when you feel that loneliness because you did this, or when you feel that overwhelmingness because you did this, that's the moment of growth. But it's important to curate your social circle of influence because they will be your influence. And sometimes people will say, okay, well, I'm with them because I like them, but I really don't like the way their outlook in life is. Hello, social behavior and social learning is about just watching. So if you're watching something that you don't like subconsciously, because 95% of us is subconscious, you're following that person. So if you're following a person who's always shy, if you're following a person who's always muted and you want to unmute, you're not going to learn from that person. You go to school to learn something. Some of us go through school not learning one thing, right? I've seen somebody who got a degree, and I asked them basic question. They're like, "What?" And it's so funny because I also see people getting interviewed who's, what country is Hawaii? And the answer is Hawaii, and like it's not a country. And where is America? Is it north or south? And the answer is east. We're not east. It's funny, but it's not funny. And I'm talking 20 something. And I was like, girl, we need to go back to like middle school for this. Like, this is my kids learned this at 5. I'm sorry. What is happening with our educational system? It's not that the educators are not educating, it's the kids are not learning. Because what's the point of learning when you can make money going through social media? You don't need education anymore because there's AI. Really? Critical thinking is not AI. You still have to prompt the dang thing, right? So it's kind of funny. Now, sister, do you believe that curating your circle of influence helps you or hinders you? Or maybe both?
The circle of influence, well, it can definitely be both, especially if you have, sometimes you don't know you've got the wrong people until after something has happened. When you curate it, when you are focused on who's in the circle and how close you let them get to you, who you're willing to open up to, who you're willing to trust, that's where you have the best chance of growing, instead of growing in a positive way, instead of growing or even remaining stagnant in a negative way. And I've gone through that. I think about people that they're basically like that object in interstellar space that just kind of goes through the solar system and leaves. They were here, they made an impact of some type, and then they're gone. And then there are those who maybe it's like Halley's Comet that pop up and they're there, or you're on the inner planets, something like that, where it's like they're there and you just have that trust. You can talk about anything, so there's no issues on you're not worried what you talk about, what you open up about, because it's a space of belonging.
And I know Miguelito is here. Miguel has, I know, talk about social learning. Okay. I know that he talked about social learning, and I know he might have even Bandora. So I would love to hear from Miguel on what, model behavior is. But here's the thing. What we do is our concern. What others do is not our concern. Even if they attack, it doesn't matter, because it's our reflection that matters the most. Okay. And the reason for that is because we need to have unfiltered voice who stays strong for those people who are not strong enough yet. They will be, right? I used to stay silent about this and that, and people choose. It's a choice, by the way. And you need to be honest about your process, not just your polished moments, right? What we do, you and I actually, and Mike too, is we absorb courage by hearing it on others. When we see and hear people that they gone through adversity and they went through it with so much hardship, but they come out okay, right? I wouldn't say perfect, but okay. um I love that. And that's what we do for 50 inspirational connections, is because the magic sauce of social learning is self reflection after observation. When you observe something that you don't like, ask yourself, why don't I like it? Don't judge like because of this. Don't make excuses, don't make reasoning, don't do any reasoning yet. Just observe, like, why do I not like it? Or why do I not like this person? Right? Because sometimes we just don't like a person because of what they said. But did what they say silence you or made you uncomfortable? And then ask yourself why. Do you want to model that silence for your kids, for yourself, for your friends, and for your social circle? Where in life do you want to speak louder? I want to speak louder on positive moments, teaching moments, right? Because being a passive listener, we need to be in action transformation, but sometimes we just don't know how. That's why you come into social circles that model social learning of positive, right? Positive reinforcement. Like, speak up in a room where you normally stay quiet. Tell them how it went. Like, I love that you talk about I don't go to Margaret's room because I get so busy, but this is a good topic. Losing so much of our voice in 2025 no longer allows us to express and convey. But it's a choice if you lose your voice. How did you lose your voice is the question. Because someone else is louder, right? But only if you allow it to be louder. You can have your own, right? You can have your own space. This is the day where social media and social learning are for you. And so if you allow people to silence you and lose your voice, that's a choice, right? But if there's enough of us to actually say, okay, enough is enough, we're going to continue to do this. This is why I created 50 inspirational connections, to give back to the community who deserves, not by algorithms, not by popularity, right? And also people can see through fakeness. Some people seem so nice and so kind and use the right words, but deep inside we can see if you're authentic or not, right? So the voice can't be lost if it's there in the first place. It's more of muting yourself, but is it by design is the question. What we're talking in our series is, how do we unlock silence? How do we unmute by design? Because we can mute ourselves all day long, but how do we unmute by design? Sister, what are your thoughts on losing your voice?
Been there, done that. That is my story, in so many ways, because I lost my voice really in childhood, to the point where I became the wallflower. I became the one that always stayed in the background. I had different experiences that basically kept me. I got to the point where I wasn't even going to risk opening up my mouth to say anything. A feeling that I had to double check everything with somebody else, because the confidence just wasn't there. That's part of the problem when you lose your voice, is you also lose your confidence. And getting that back, it's its own fight. And you have to figure out if you're willing to take it back, if you're if you understand that you can take it back instead of always deferring to others. And that's kind of what I did for so much of my life. Never felt that I was in the center. I always felt like I'm the one that was deferring everything to others because it didn't feel safe to stand up for myself. And it took finally being done with listening to what others were telling me, to say I'm done with this and start a year off in a whole new direction.
Again, it's choice. You choose because you are not happy anymore, right? Henry, I like this conversation. Thank you for putting this up. I love it. Curate your personal circle of influence. Yes, I did say that. If you believe that you are basically a fusion of the top 5 conversations that you're having every day, then choose your top 5 wisely. That is correct. But here's the thing. I have a lot of friends. I mean, a lot. I have also a lot of acquaintances, and I mean a lot. Okay, when I used to walk in San Diego, everywhere, people used to know me, and my husband used to get mad, like, "Oh, why do you know so many people? Like, I can't go to the store without stopping," because I do know a lot of people. But do I listen to them? No, right? A circle of influence, to me, curation, sometimes it only takes one person, not even 5 people, to be honest, one person to get you going. And Susanna can tell you that. Um, because it's about connection, and it's about the process of safety. I have had so many friends, or so-called friends, for years, 20 years that I have friends. I have friends since I was 5, by the way, still. Um, but here's the thing: when you don't believe that you can tell 100% of yourself to this person without the drama, because it always comes with the drama, especially your best friend, like, they know everything about you, your life, your family, your hardship, your weakness, everything, and you're so vulnerable, and then you have one fight, and all of a sudden the whole friendship knows about your entire life. And so guess what you do? You hide your things now. You don't say anything anymore because you're like, I am not going through that crap again, right? But reinforcing growth and not fear is really hard to do when all you had in your life is fear, and all you had in your life is silence, and all you have in your life is rules and regulations that you have to follow. You don't even know who you are anymore, because what you want and what you're doing are two different things. Which some people are still going through that, and some people are trying to get unlearn the silence and practice their voice. So yes, I totally agree that sometimes it doesn't even have top 5. I actually have more than 5 conversations a day. Um, yeah, with people. I do. And some of them are text, and some of them are phone calls, some of them are Zoom. And I'm not talking about like clients and stuff. Sometimes it's students, sometimes it's family, sometimes it's best friends, right? And we try to stay positive as much as we can, because negative energy and negative conversation drags us down. Continuous negative energy drags us down. So we try to find something positive that we can talk about, so we can unlearn all of these negative things. It's just that energy, it's negative, it gets into a negative space. So unlocking that silence, like, hey sis, what about this, right? You don't have to say, oh my god, you're so negative, da 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 da, because then you shut down people from sharing anymore, because then you're like, oh, I made her feel this way, right? Subconsciously, your subconscious is talking. So having that self reflection and observation, being intentional with what you say, is really about learning, because it's systemic. We are programmed to be silenced, to be quiet, to behave, to not be loud, to not wear makeup, to not do this. There's a trend on TikTok right now saying, oh, what does a average 50-year-old look like without makeup? Okay, what is that saying socially? What is that saying? What is that saying?
We don't need that kind of saying.
Right? It's
It's
saying that
negative.
if you wear makeup and you're 50, you're not average and you're not true to yourself. Or it could be saying that because we have too much filter now in social media, and we have too much, wigs and makeup and things like that. We want to see who you are at your core, right? It's literally not good or bad. It's how you look at it. But for some people who have low self-esteem, they might say like, "Oh, who are you to judge me that I wear makeup?" Like it can go both ways. That's what I'm saying. Like there's so many social learning and that I observe in social media that's funny but not funny. So I observe, right? And identify to unmute models like a thought leader would openly. Like, let's talk about how you're feeling about that. It's not our job to make everybody feel good. It's our job to feel good for ourselves so that when we talk to somebody or we influence someone, it's a positive interaction. It's not always 100% because we're human beings, but at least we try. But staying silent is not good either. So how do we identify to unmute ourselves, sister? Since we're going through towards the end of this discussion, what is a social learning journey that you have identified and saying enough is enough? I'm going to unmute by design.
That would be my own personal journey when I hit the point where I was done trying to do and be what everybody else told me, and strike off on my own direction, on the direction that I felt the most comfortable with, that I wanted to travel, and to find a way to make a difference in the world in my own way, not trying to do what others are doing. So in many ways, I was conscious of making the shift. I didn't exactly have a plan, and it's a case where a lot of it depended on who showed up in my life as to what the next steps were going to be, what that path was going to look like. And there was a lot of trial and error once I made that decision, because over the next couple of years, I had a number of between connections that I made, between working with different coaches for different things, and really it took me to actually know more about me, which quite frankly didn't happen until last year, to have a better feel for how to start making a path that made sense for me, to unmute more openly and still disregard the algorithms, because I can
Those damn numbers.
well that's just it, because I can look back to what my numbers were like 2, 3, 5 years, not more than about 3 years ago, 2, 3 years ago. And I know what those numbers were like. And then you look at over the past year, part of it is life. The algorithm doesn't like you to have a life. You have to love the algorithm, not live your life. So when we hit some of these points where we can't do it, it's not a I just don't feel like it today thing. It's like, I can't do it today. I just have to get through the day. Trying to do a post, it's too much. It adds too much to everything else I'm trying to get by. And we get penalized for it because the algorithm doesn't care.
Yeah, we don't care for algorithms anymore. It's like, okay. Now, I love Dr. Pawar. Thank you so much for coming in. I'm hoping that I didn't butcher your name. So I love that you said this because it is true. I'm actually having the manipulation and stats here. It says that state and political actors organized manipulation campaigns have been detected in 81 countries and 70 from the previous years. So over 93% of countries saw some form of disinformation used in politics. Campaigns are often run by the government, political parties, PR firms, bot armies, and fake accounts to shape opinions. Perception of social media's power across 19 advanced economies. A median of 84% of people say social media makes the public easier to manipulate with false information and rumors. That is so true. 65% say these platforms have increased political division, and 70% consider false information online a major threat, which we're having that, right? The algorithmic amplification and echo chambers. It's false news spreads up to 6 times faster than real news and 70% more likely to be retweeted. That's scary. That's scary. 6 times faster. Algorithms reinforce echo chambers. Users are 5 to 8% less likely to be exposed to opposing political views. Exposure to cross cutting content is only 24% for liberals and 35% for conservatives. It says elite control and algorithmic bias. Research from journal researchers saying that the wealthier elites correlate with more ideologically skewed news supply in liberal contexts. Studies also show that Twitter algorithms systemically amplify right leaning political content more than left leaning, right? Because it depends who owns it. And why this matters. It matters a lot because there's a lot of disinformation as strategy. Public perception. The majority globally feel manipulated and polarized by social platforms. The algorithms amplified divisiveness. False content wins, and opposing views vanish in echo chambers. That's true. Elite bias. Influence distortion aren't random. They align with wealth and politics, reinforcing elite agendas. That's so true because when there's something really big happening, you don't hear about it, right? And then you hear it for 2 seconds and then it's gone. And then you just go on with your life. Like, I didn't hear anything about the Texas news until I went to TikTok. Like, TikTok is my news now. What is happening? Like, it's crazy, right? I hear more things from TikTok. So thank you for doing that. But here's the thing. You and I, regular people, how do we make sure that if we have a voice, any kind of platform that we're given, how do we make sure that we don't become the echo chambers? That I want to know, right? Mike is here. Vanity has always been around. It's just amplified more now than ever, which is what every generation said. So true. The average sum incorporates all. Yes, Miguel, that's so true. Hello, Annie. How are you doing? Back in my day. Oh my gosh. Hello, Dr. New. So here's the takeaway and for us is that if platforms are built to shape opinion, which we know it is, and we know that elites exploit them, then our voices and stories need structural defense. So we have to teach digital literacy, algorithm awareness, which you're doing, and intentional community building to unmute our stillness. And that's what we are doing with our community. Amplify stories who are doing something back to their community. That is what 50 Inspirational Connections is all about. That is what Level Up Academy is all about. Is to what? Level up the world through education. Today, our topic is social learning. What we learn from our social influence and a circle of influence comes back to us. So if you're watching people emboldened by their stories, you should also be inspired to embolden your stories. But in what way? Is it a positive ripple or is it a negative ripple? Because we want positivity, right? We crave positivity. But if your input is negative, your output sometimes might not be positive. So self-awareness is still needed. Otherwise, you go into this vicious cycle, right? So, sister, we talked about Bandura social learning theory. We talked about what we learn technically from our family and our culture. Like, that is our social influence and social learning, guys. It's our family. We live, we breathe through 24/7. That's what we know, right? And it's really hard to unlearn those things. So how do we unlearn it as adults that we can make choices? How do you unlearn some things that you don't want to be done to you, but you're doing it to others? How do we unlearn that, sister?
Awareness is the first step. That you understand what you're doing, and that it's I guess first actually you know what you're doing, and you know you know what you want to change, but that can be really hard to do. It's when you're aware that you can do it, that you can take action and then do that, is when it really starts to change. When you sit back and think about how you want to go against the grain of whatever it was that was holding you in a space that you really don't want to be in anymore. And sometimes we want to be in that space, and sometimes we never wanted to, and we just couldn't get ourselves out of it. Either we didn't know we could do something, or we were afraid to do something. So it's time to it's taking that first step of awareness that you can do it. Take the step, whatever it's holding you back, whether it means moving beyond boundaries, whether it means moving beyond boxes. You just have to be that rebel with a cause, right?
That's right, because we're going against the grain. And ultimately, we have scattered pages everywhere that we're doing. And at the end, we're grateful for all those experiences.
Exactly. See
Guys,
how
it's like,
we
well,
work
that's all
all
our
of that
books.
in?
That's all of our book titles. Okay, in seriousness, okay, here's what I have learned studying the famous psychologist, Albert Bandura. He's Canadian, guys, but he's a Stanford professor for a long time, and he has created social learning theory. And he has 5 powerful steps to unlearn social learning. And you can try it yourself if it works. The first one is recognize the modeling. Whose voice became your template? Think about it, really. Ask yourself, who did I watch growing up that taught me to stay silent, taught me to be small or compliant or nice, even when I don't want to? What reactions did I see when someone didn't play by those rules? Right? Which behaviors did I mirror just to feel safe? Or maybe a statement. The first time I learned silence was safer than truth was when I was 5, I was 4, whichever. The second step is to identify the script. You've been performing a script that you didn't write. Let's find the lines. Write out your common internal dialogue. People are like, don't rock the boat. Why do you think, oh, who do you think you are doing this, right? Name where it came from. What is your mom's survival skills? A teacher's rule, or maybe a church conditioning. And then decide, does this still belong to me? Awareness is the first tool of liberation, like what my sister said. Number 3 is deconstruct that reinforcement. Bandura taught the world literally. We learn through consequences, reward or punishment. You work for free or you work to get paid. You volunteer for free, right? Reward and punishment. So deconstruct that. What behavior got rewarded in your life? Is it being quiet? Is it being agreeable? Is it being modest? Are your friends nice to you because you're always giving advice? You're giving free things? What behavior got punished? Is it because you're speaking up or you're asking questions and you disagree to what they're thinking? Then you get labeled as a troublemaker, right? Deconstruct those reinforcements. Once you realize the reward system that was rigged, you stop chasing the gold star because you don't care at that point anymore. And then the fourth one is remodel your environment. Your surrounding are either triggering your old patterns or empowering new ones. So unfollow those who preach performance over truth. Refill your feed with voices that models courage, positivity, boundary setting, and self-trust. And then reframe your silence as a strategy that you use to survive. It's not a personality trait. New models, new maps. And then the last one is practice visible voice, even if it's a micro unmuting. We don't unlearn through theory, we learn through messy action. Speak up in a meeting where you normally don't. Post a truth you'd normally filter. Disagree with love instead of defaulting to silence, whatever that is, right? unlearn a little muscle here and there, the repetition will feel so awkward, but that means it's working because the uncomfortable is where your growth lies. So that would be my advice for those 5 social learning. Any last minute thing that you would like to add, sister?
Social learning is gonna be an ongoing thing, and we know we've a lot of what we talked about is in various stages. There's what happens to us in childhood, and then going forward in the world right now are the things that we never had in my childhood. Social media was not in existence until for me until my 40s. So think about everybody who's now in their 20s and social media is there, and that is painting the picture for so many. The social learning is just, it changes as much as society changes. It's almost that way, and it can be hard to keep track of how it's changing, because I can't keep track of all the nuances, all the platforms, all the different ways. So we just have to be vigilant and make sure we know who we are and go forward as our authentic self, and not let the outside pressures, including social media, change who we are at our core.
Yeah. And Henry, I love your conversation tonight. I just want you to know you should keep coming on Sunday. I love it. And one of these days, I want you up here. He says, unfortunately, it's very easy for folks to consider defining a new problem as being negative, and then the difficult, iterative, back and forth process of problem solving is always a lot of hard work, which often gets mislabeled as negative energy, thus leaving us with only superficial things to talk about together. The fact is, it's actually possible for humans to grow and co discover new levels of value in our disagreements. When are leaders going to recognize this value creation process? Actually, it's the ego that gets in the way, because people will always think, I'm right. No, I'm right. No, I'm right. No, I'm right. And compromise is something that I think even leaders of countries are having issues with, is the compromise, right? It's the ego that the id is like, oh, I'm gonna just do it, I'm just gonna do this, right? I literally absolutely see where you're coming from. Having a deep dialogue and iterative problem solving are uncomfortable, but that is where I tell my students I actually love conflict, but with boundaries. Because when you agree to everything, you become a lemmings, like you literally just a sheep following everything, right? But when you disagree, doesn't mean I'm gonna be. This is why I love disagreement, but not disrespect. I've always have said that, right? Because a disagreement is where you actually learn different views, different culture. When you work for a MNEs, multinational organizations, you're gonna learn disagreements. It's gonna happen all the time, and that's where you learn from different things. And I love disagreement so long as it doesn't become disrespectful or egocentric, where everyone is always one person have to be right and everyone has to shut up because they're the boss. That I don't like. But leaders sometimes takes time to need to process their ego when they get told that's not a good idea because, and for them it's like, I'm the leader of this country or I'm the leader of this business. Who you're gonna tell me you're just a worker that it's not gonna work, right? And so that's definitely not a great leader. But I love that you're having this discussion, Henry. I really appreciate it. Thank you for your topics tonight. I'm grateful. This is a topic that resonated with me. Connecting through social learning means having the knowledge and courage to remodel our surroundings and reframe our perspectives, creating spaces that inspire growth, collaboration, and positive change. Thank you. Yes, I love social learning theory and really talking about how do we individually unlearn something that we don't like about ourselves or we don't like about the people that we curate, that we talk to every single day. So thank you guys so much. I'm loving this conversation. We're going to have another Unmute by Design. Susana and I will always have this sometimes on Sundays, sometimes on weekdays. So just look for those Unmute by Design series. This is our second series. We're going to have a third one soon. Bye, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. See ya. 50 Inspirational Connections is made for that, social learning, to be positive, guys. So keep on going, okay? Thank you so much. Wait, what did Annie say? I get what you mean, that we would do better by becoming genuinely good intention in our soul. That is so true. Yes. Good night, bro. It's East Coast time for him. Bye, everybody. We love you guys. See ya.
I started in the silence, behind closed doors. Dreams too loud to keep tucked in the floorboards. Late nights, broke days, no applause in sight. Just coffee, hustling that fire to fight. They said, play small, but I'm built to expand. No silver spoon, just grit in my hand. I will every note like armor and steel. Visibility's a battle, but I'm real and I heal. From invisible threads to the front of the stage, I'm rewriting the script, turning scars into page. Level up, rise above the fear. Let them hear your voice, make your purpose clear. Every step, every stumble, every tear in the rough. You were made for this moment, you are enough. Level up, break through the doubt. Turn the whispers of your past into a victory shout. You ain't just chasing clout, you're building a legacy. Now the world's gonna see what they couldn't believe. What they couldn't believe. See the back end, just a headline glow. But success is built slow, where the struggle don't show. Algorithms change, but your mission's divine. You're the brand, you're the vision, you're the power behind. You gave free just to prove you have value inside. Now it's invoices paid and your name amplified. You're not just in business, you're changing the game. And your visibility, that's more than a name. No more shrinking, this is expansion. No more asking, this is commanding. You've been the spark, now you're the flame. Entrepreneur by fire, fueled by name. Level up, rise above the fear. Let them hear your voice, make your purpose clear. Every step, every stumble, every tear in the rough. You were made for this moment, you are enough. Level up, break through the doubt. Turn the whispers of your past into a victory shout. You ain't just chasing clout, you're building a legacy. Now the world's gonna see what they couldn't believe. What they couldn't believe. To the late nights, the lost friends, the risks you took, to the brand you built and the space you shook. Here's your crown, your moment, your spotlight beam. You didn't just chase the dream, you became the dream.